Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Millennial Revolt, an independent political talk show that seeks to bring a different narrative than the stale one we have going on right now in the mainstream media. So, the Democratic Party has been exposed in this election, and what I mean by that is people are now finding out more of the inner workings and the connection between the Democratic Party, the Democratic National Committee, as well as the media's connection and how they're trying to push forth a narrative which completely bypasses reality. We've seen in the Democratic primaries how members of the media as well as the DNC actively try to undermine and even sabotage one of their own Democratic candidates, and they actually worked. We've seen in multiple states as well as state Democratic parties actively engaging in election fraud to help a particular candidate. We see the Democratic nominee for president who is under multiple investigations, and it just brings to mind what kind of values does the Democratic Party stand for as a whole. Given the history of the Democratic Party, we know where it is. And just on a side note, what just frustrates me about learning about the Civil War, because I remember growing up when I was in elementary school, middle school, and even high school, learning about the Civil War, it was always a North-South issue. But as I'm older and I do more research myself because I love history, I'm a student of history, and I think it's extremely important that we know what's going on because history is never told by the losers, it's told by the winners. So I always want to find out, what are they not telling us? My issue is that they never address the fact that it was really one party who promoted all of this. It was the Democratic Party. It was one party that started Jim Crow. It was one party that started all of these institutions that systematically hurt African Americans. Now, I'm not saying that the Democratic Party is doing this now, but I'm saying the fact of the matter is, under multiple Democratic administrations, they allowed this to continue, and never once, as far as I've been alive, never once have I seen the Democratic Party as a whole apologize for any of this. What I've seen them do is co-opt the fact that, oh, well, we helped black people with the civil rights era. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. If you look at the votes back in the 60s, it's not that long ago. It was mostly Republicans who did that. And this is just what frustrates me about learning about American history, is because we are not honest. And maybe sometimes it's because there's a lot of liberals and progressives who do control a lot of our media outlets, academia, and stuff like that. But I think it's important that we learn from our history. We learn what people did, and we can move on. Like, if you're not honest about it, and you're not honest about the things that were done in the past, you can't grow from it. You can't learn from it. You can't have any healing. And it kind of just begs the question that I say majority in a lot of my videos, that the Democratic Party just seems to pander to the youth and minorities through social issues to get votes. Because I say that the Republican Party they don't pander, they just straight talk, and the Democratic Party has just kind of finessed their way into just latching onto popular issues so they can get into office without really paying any mind to them. We see the Democratic Party, who is supposed to be a liberal and so-called progressive party, which I think majority of them are centrists, but we see them turning into a corporatist party, which has been happening for years, but it's just very blatant in this election. So we're going to be talking about that, so let's get into it. So after President Obama won the election back in 2008, he nominated Hillary Clinton to be his Secretary of State, and she served her tenure from 2009 to 2013. Now, it seems like the DNC, the Democratic Party as a whole, basically coronated her to the Democratic nomination for the 2016 presidential election. But they did not expect Bernie Sanders to come. Now, Bernie Sanders has been a longtime independent who decided to run on the Democratic ticket. He has been a senator for a good portion of his life, helping the American people trying to influence policy. Now, the primaries were just vicious. The attacks against Bernie Sanders from people who claim to be liberal or progressive or just independent, unbiased journalists just attacked him mercilessly, and his supporters giving them derogatory names such as Bernie Bros, that they're all white men, that anyone who doesn't support Hillary Clinton is sexist. Just some of the most ridiculous things that you've ever heard. What we saw was massive election fraud throughout the primaries. We saw that in California, millions of postal ballots not being counted. We've seen people being purged from the votes, from the voter rolls in New York. We've seen exit polls not matching up from state to state, and I will have a link in the description below to a website you can check out so you can see it. It's documented from state to state, just so we could elect Hillary Clinton, just so we can push her through the nomination. And one of the most damaging things about all of this is that we saw that the Democratic National Party, with the help of WikiLeaks through leaked emails and cables, we've seen that the DNC was actually actively trying to undermine one of their own candidates. We've seen that the DNC chairperson, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, actually had to step down because of this scandal, and there was fears of her being booed at the Democratic National Convention because of this, because feelings were still very raw. We've seen that the media immediately, instead of focusing on the content of the emails, the fact that we had members of the media such as Jake Tapper from CNN, or Chuck Todd, we had the Washington Post. We've seen what the Associated Press did a day before the California primaries, already posted a story saying that Hillary Clinton won the primaries, and they come up with their own math. It was crazy to watch. You've seen that these news publications and these journalists actively working with the DNC to create a false narrative, and we ended up with the candidate that we have now for the Democratic Party. Seeing that the Democratic Party, the Democratic National Committee, actually undermine their own base just to nominate such a flawed candidate like Hillary Clinton. We see during the leaked emails that the Democratic Party speaking in derogatory language about their own voters, their own people who support their party, the people that they need to continue to get them to vote for them. We've seen what the Democratic Party has said about Hispanic voters. They called them taco bowls, the taco bowl outreach, which was a specific term that they used. We've seen what the Democratic Party, the Democratic National Committee said about BLM, though I do have issues with the movement in itself. We've seen that the Democratic Party, as a general rule, would be to listen to them as to show that they care about what these people are saying, but to make no definite promises or any policy changes or to address any of their concerns. So basically, the Democratic Party we see that is just pandering to get minority votes, because if minorities stop voting for the Democratic Party, that's it. I mean, that's really it. A large portion of their voters are Black and Hispanic people, or people in low-income neighborhoods. So those are the people they need to vote for them. What we've seen in this election is millions upon millions of dollars being poured into the Clinton campaign. We've seen the Democratic National Committee, which is supposed to use some of the money that was donated to them, actually used some of the funds to actually get Hillary Clinton elected, which is supposed to go down to down ballot tickets. We've seen in this Democratic election just the blatant partisanship of the media and how they continue to lose credibility day by day. We see this with the Hillary Clinton email scandal, how they are unwilling to cover it, how they're just saying it's a right-wing conspiracy when there was Hillary Clinton actively endangered national security with her negligence and her irresponsible behavior. We see this when we are talking about Hillary Clinton's health, but when it was John McCain who ran as a Republican back in 2008, it became a big issue and was one of the central issues of the campaign back then. But because Hillary Clinton is a woman and because she is a Democrat, this is a right-wing conspiracy when this woman is extremely ill. I just recently did a video about Hillary Clinton's health problems, and I will have that linked below so you can check that out. So the Democratic Party in this election has done so many things to just expose itself and just turn into a party that people no longer know. The largest voting bloc in the United States is not the Democrats, it is not Republicans, it is independents. And the more people see what our two main parties are doing, people are going to deregister from it. We already had the Dem Exit movement where people who were just fed up with the nonsense of the Democratic Party and just witnessed blatant fraud, blatant corruption on a massive scale, just said, you know what, I'm done with this. So they deregistered from the party. Another issue that is pressing is the TPP. Now, we already know that President Obama supports the TPP. We already know that Hillary Clinton called it the gold standards of trade agreements, and we have multiple Democratic senators who do support the TPP. So it's very troubling that a party who claims to care about the workers, claims to care about jobs, who claims to care about the American family helping us, growing our wages, would support a trade deal which is essentially going to ship more jobs out of the country. We already had our former Democratic president and Bill Clinton who supported and actually got past NAFTA, which has basically destroyed our manufacturing industry and shipped most of our jobs overseas or to Mexico. Now we have the TPP, which is essentially the same thing. And the problem with the TPP as well, one of the sticking points for me, is that it would allow corporations to sue governments just in case they pass any regulation or laws that would curb so-called profits that these companies would make. Now, this is extremely dangerous, and it sets a precedent that cannot be reversed. God forbid this is ever passed. So another issue with the Democratic Party today, and especially in this election, is their McCarthyite tactics. Now, if you don't know what McCarthyism is the practice of making accusations of subversion or treason without proper evidence. Now, this is what I mean by that, is when they say that Trump has links to the Kremlin, then when they say that Jill Stein is a Kremlin agent as well. I mean, it's just pure propaganda. We see that the Democratic Party is engaging in this full sale that's saying that the Russians are trying to subvert American democracy, that they're trying to influence our elections, because WikiLeaks is releasing information that is showing Hillary Clinton's impropriety. Now, instead of sticking to the issues, you see what the Democrats is doing. They are trying to turn every single thing onto somebody else. It is not anyone's fault that you selected a extremely flawed candidate to represent your party in the general election. It is not anyone's fault that you decided to nominate a candidate who is extremely dishonest. She lies about everything that's going on. It's not no one's fault that you had a candidate who voted for the Iraq War, who cheerleaded the destruction of Libya, who cheerleaded the coup in Honduras, whose foundation stole money from Haitians in Haiti when they had their earthquake. It is no one's fault but the Democrats who allowed their party leaders to cheat the American people, to engage in voter suppression, voter fraud, to allow this woman to be elected. As a person who is currently a registered Democrat, unfortunately, it's upsetting to see the nonsense that is being perpetrated by liberal and progressive news outlets, channels, and Democrats who are perpetrating lies just to get Hillary Clinton elected. Now, there are problems within every political party, but unfortunately, we are too good at hiding things, and anyone who criticizes the Democrats are labeled as bigots, racists, misogynists, and the list goes on. So I'm going to be making a part 2, so this is part 1, so hopefully you guys enjoy the video. I'm the Millennial Revolt, and thank you so much for watching. You have a wonderful day. Bye.